Valley. Welcome to Plan the Day, Own Tomorrow. My name is Gary Thurman. I am your host of the wonderful show here that we have on radio. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It's all over the place. Guardian Investment Advisors is the name of our firm, and each and every week we come in here and try to give you guys some really good content, no matter if you're just looking for income planning, tax planning, long-term care planning, Medicare planning. We're going to talk about a lot of those things today, and really what we're going to talk about today are a lot of the concerns that people have out there going into retirement and actually post-retirement. So we're going to touch on several things that, let's say folks between the ages of 60 and 75 are really concerned about or worried about, or some things they need help with. So that's today's show. And before we get cranked up on that, it's just me and Mr. Tim McDermott today, buddy. How you doing, man?
Just me?
Just
I feel
me
like I'm
and
special.
Tim McDermott. Just me and Tim. We don't have Bobby here. We don't have Tanner here. It's just us, man.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. It's been a good week. I took my daughter down to the drag strip down there.
I know you saw that. That's
Ringgold.
awesome.
It was a lot of fun this weekend. We're just having a good time.
You said she had a lot more fun than you were expecting her to have.
Did, yeah. Well, so she's scared of these loud noises,
Yeah.
right? And she's only 2, makes sense. But took her down there, and she didn't want to wear her earmuffs. So I was like, okay, don't wear them. And so every time a car would pass, she'd grab my hands and just throw them over her ears.
How
And
funny.
I was like, okay.
How funny. She compromised. She figured it out. I think that's really, really neat. So, well, good, man. I actually had a laid-back weekend. Watched a lot of football. Rhonda was actually out of town, so...
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to catch up on some rest and watch some football, which is, everybody knows is a passion of mine. So
Getting some rest, rare and far between now.
very rare, very rare. But hey, we're here, we're plugging away. So Tim, let's jump into today's show because we got a lot of things we want to cover. And one of the biggest questions that people ask us, and this is maybe somebody even in their 30s and 40s and early 50s years old, is when should I actually start planning for retirement? I know the answer for this, but what's your take on that?
So, I mean, the obvious answer is right now.
Yeah. ASAP?
Yeah, that's what everybody says, right? And it's true. You should start right now. The problem that we see a lot is that folks do start, right? They get their first job out of college. They say, oh, cool, I get a fancy 401k, and they start contributing to it. And 5-10 years down the road, something happens, and they end up having to drain that account.
Yeah, right? Something bad happens.
This is something we see quite often, and I'd love to see folks be really intentional about not touching those funds for a couple of reasons. A, the earlier you start those funds, the more compound interest has effect on those funds, and it really makes a difference. But B, anytime we pull funds out of qualified accounts before we're age 59 and a half, we pay taxes, but we also pay that 10% penalty.
So you pay more tax.
That's right. And so you would have been better off essentially not putting anything in there. Not what I'm suggesting.
No. So the solution to that, because I know we have talked to some very young people before, and we always say, we use our bucket system. We always say we need to get that yellow bucket of money established first.
That's right.
Pay yourself first, put money back. Because if something bad happens, you don't have to jump into your 401k.
That's right.
You agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. If you've heard us talk about our bucket system before, we talk about the red, yellow, and green buckets. When we talk about the 401ks, that usually falls into that red bucket. That's money in the market, money at risk, money that is there for future retirement and inflation needs. What Gary's referring to is that yellow bucket. It's important to have funds inside of that yellow bucket so that you are prepared for the unexpected, right?
Absolutely.
That yellow bucket of money is there for unexpected needs that arise, an emergency fund that you should have. The quick rule of thumb for that, it's a little different for everybody, but 3 to 6 months of expenses should be inside of that account.
And so for folks out there, if they're listening, they're younger, they don't really need to worry about the green bucket right now.
That's right, yeah.
The yellow bucket and the red bucket's really their priorities.
That's right. Yeah, that green bucket's there to develop a guaranteed income for life when you retire.
Right.
And it's not necessarily, you're not going to get the most growth out of it, but it is there to guarantee an income. So we want the most growth through the red bucket and emergency funds in the yellow bucket as you're younger. And as we get closer to that retirement age, that's when we start using that green bucket.
I love it. We're going to jump into income planning here in just a few minutes. Something I want to hit first, though, Tim, is really a passion of mine, and that's healthcare. I think so many people just don't realize, God forbid if they get sick, and the stats are 70% of us now, 70% of us are going to need some type of long-term care. And if you're a married couple at 65, there's a 25% chance that both of you will need some type of long-term care. And we talk about that Fidelity report that came out years ago all the
Sure.
time. You know, a 65-year-old person, healthy person, can expect to spend $174,000 just in general health care. That's not including long-term care. So I think healthcare planning is an essential part of your retirement plan because, unfortunately, if you don't have a plan for it and it happens, it will absolutely wipe you out.
Yeah, as one of the, if not the highest inflated program in the United States right now, it's going to be expensive one way or another. Having a good healthcare plan and having it reviewed every year. That's why we have Tanner Moore in-house, in office.
Got to have that
take care
Medicare
of
plan,
that.
right?
Yeah, he's the guy to talk to. That is going to be essential to reducing as much of that $178,000 number as possible.
Right.
But then the long-term care planning has to play into that, right?
It's got to be a part of it.
Yeah, and you got your start in this industry by doing long-term
I
care
did.
planning. I mean, how has that evolved in the last 29 years?
It's amazing to me that when I started selling long-term care insurance, 33% of us were going to need some type of long-term care. Now it's all the way up to 70% of us. So that's
a pretty astronomical
that's
number, by
huge.
the way. I mean, that's 7 out of 10 people.
That's correct.
That's
And the fact is, Tim, we're living longer, right? We talked about, having that emergency account and all these different things, but the fact is we're living longer. Longevity risk is real. So as we live longer, we're going to have more opportunities to, unfortunately, get sick. That's just the bottom line.
it's good, I guess.
We're living longer, but getting sick, none of us want to get sick.
Right.
I mean, but you need to be prepared. God forbid if you or your spouse get sick because, going for Medicaid or applying for Medicaid, they're going to do a major spend down on your assets. I think you'd rather have a plan for it. And the neat thing is, we won't jump into this too much, but the neat thing is, Tim, there's so many other ways to plan for that what if in long-term care other than traditional long-term care insurance.
Yeah, agreed. That's where we're using funds in that green bucket, that one
That's
that
right.
we just talked about, to guarantee an income for life. Not only can we use that green bucket to guarantee an income, we can also use it to help take care of some of those long-term care expenses. We're using asset-based long-term care plans. Instead of paying that premium to an insurance company for 30, 40
Right.
years,
Yeah.
getting premium increases and being limited on what you can actually spend, we're developing a plan to leverage the assets that you already have to help pay for those long-term care needs, to help cover those costs as not as a reimbursement, but as cash to you,
Right.
something that you can use for whatever you want to do.
And I think what's huge for people to understand here, these are ADL driven. So a lot of long-term care policies out there, you have to be confined for them to actually turn on your insurance.
That's right.
These particular programs, as long as you fail 2 activity daily living skills and they get a note from the doctor saying that you have, that money is paid directly to you. It's pretty fascinating. We can do asset-based long-term care planning. There is some suitability there. There are some underwriting questions that we need to figure out. Most of our folks, as a matter of fact, 94% of the folks we're doing this for are going through it with no issues at all. But God forbid you have a health concern. God forbid you just don't qualify for one of these asset-based long-term care plans Tim was talking about. Fixed index annuities. We like them here at Guardian Investment Advisors because we teach you, we educate you, and we show you actually how they work. They now have multi-benefit riders. As a matter of fact, I am meeting with a gentleman this afternoon and going to turn income on in 1 year, Tim. Income's going to be $45,000 a year, guaranteed for the rest of his life. Actually, that's a joint,
Yep.
rest of his life and his wife's life, $45,000 a year. However, if he or she gets sick and fails 2 ADLs, they'll get $90,000 for 5 years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, it's not long-term care insurance.
No.
But guess what? With that particular type of plan, there's no qualification. There's no qualification at all. So anyone can purchase one of these fixed index annuities. The stipulation is there's a waiting period,
Sure.
1 or 2 years, but still.
That's very
I mean,
reasonable.
it's pretty awesome. We really don't have time, Tim, to jump into income and taxes right now, so I'm going to put that off to the next set. I want to go back really quick, if you don't mind. How important is that yellow bucket of money? Even for people 60, 65, 70, 75 years old, how important is it to have that emergency account established?
Yeah, so it should be the first thing that you do. when you're talking about the bucket strategy. Let's get an emergency account set up for you. That way, when the car breaks down, the roof needs to be replaced. Gary knows a little bit about that.
Yes.
The AC needs to get fixed. You have a bucket of cash to pull from. This prevents you from having to reach into a 401k or an IRA,
Right.
pay taxes and penalties, so that you can make it through, that tough time that you're going through, right? These things happen. Life happens.
That's right.
And we have to be prepared for it. Make sure that's the first thing that we do. Get 3 to 6 months worth of expenses put aside in account that you can pull from anytime.
Yeah. So we were trying to talk about a little taxes in this first segment. We kind of ran out of time, but a lot of people are worried about taxes going up. We're going to talk about it in the next segment, but what I would like for you to do is go to plantodaytaxbill.com. Plantodaytaxbill.com. It's a free quiz we offer. Do it from the comfort of your home. What you can do is go in there and put in your current situation, income, your tax brackets, all that good stuff, and then maybe what if taxes go up 5%? What if they go up 10%? How is that going to impact your retirement? What I will tell you is that the impact would be huge, and you need to do some tax planning. You get your taxes filed every year with your accountant or your CPA. I'm talking about true tax planning. And when Tim and I come back, we're going to dig into tax planning. We're going to dig into income planning. And the big topic right now in Guardian Investment Advisors in Chattanooga and Knoxville is Roth conversions. So we'll be talking about that when we come back. Again, plantodaytaxbill.com. Go check it out. We'll be right back. In the U.S., it takes an average of 12.5 months for families to legally resolve all financial matters after someone passes away. As a financial advisor, I realize how delicate it can be talking about end of life and financial matters. But that is why I'm here, to help make that hard conversation about taking care of your loved ones easier to have. What if your beneficiaries need some funds sooner than 12 months to cover medical expenses, funeral costs, or monthly bills? That's where Guardian Investment Advisors has you covered. There is a financial solution where we would place a portion of your assets you're already planning on leaving to your loved ones into a guaranteed issue life insurance policy. Within 48 hours, these funds can be provided to your family with confirmation from the funeral home. I'm Gary Thurman, CEO of Guardian Investment Advisors. We are your neighbors right here in the Tennessee Valley. Call us today. Your peace of mind starts with a simple conversation. Tennessee Valley, welcome back to Plan the Day on Tomorrow. I'm your host, Gary Thurman. I'm in here today with my good friend and fiduciary advisor, Tim McDermott, and we're talking all things that pre-retirees and post-retirees are concerned about, worried about, things they should be planning for. We had a great first segment there talking about actually when to start planning. We got into a little bit of tax conversation, not much. We're about to do that right now, but we really focused on some healthcare planning as well. So if you didn't catch the first segment, go back and listen to it. You can always go to our website, giaplantheday.com, giaplantheday.com. You can see all of our TV shows and our last 10 radio shows posted on the website. Again, giaplantheday.com. Tim, we kind of set the conversation up about taxes. I really want to talk about taxes, income, and Roth conversions in this segment. I think if people don't do tax planning, that it could derail their retirement. I honestly do, because our debt is increasing by $54,000 a second, $3.5 million a minute. That's insane to me when I think about those numbers. At some point, we're going to have to pay some taxes. What is the difference between going and getting your taxes filed and doing tax planning?
Okay, great, a bunch of great points there.
Okay. I got a mouthful this morning.
Yeah. So the difference in getting them filed and doing some planning, right? You're going to go and talk with your CPA. There is some tax planning involved there. I'll say that, right? But the tax planning is based around, did you put money into your IRA? How are we reducing taxes right now? How are we reducing taxes this year? Because at the end of the day, that CPA's job is to get you to write as little of a check as possible to the IRS.
Correct.
Right? And that's great. We want that to happen. But sometimes, and this sounds counterintuitive, it makes sense to pay a little more taxes now to prevent yourself from paying more in the future. Right?
I agree.
And that's where sometimes Roth conversions can take a place in what we're doing. You know, Gary just talked about how much our debt is increasing. If we're increasing by an average of $2 trillion a year and continuing to rise that number, somebody has to pay that debt back at some point in the future. and the government really only has one source of income. It's taxes.
Taxes.
Right?
Yeah.
So how are we going to pay that back down if we're spending more than we're bringing in as a United States government? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question today. The point would be, what can you do about it? And right now, what you can do is start putting money aside into tax-free accounts. You can take those from tax-deferred accounts. Those are your IRAs and traditional 401ks. You made a deal with Uncle Sam when you went into those plans, pay me now or pay me later. And you agreed to pay him later. Well, later happens in retirement. So if we're in the third lowest tax bracket we've ever seen in U.S. history, why wouldn't you pay your taxes now?
Why? I mean, the big, beautiful bill just extended those taxes, we kind of know for sure, through 2028 at that low tax rate. So it's so important for people to figure that out, because here's another concern I think a lot of retirees have. They have all this money in these taxable accounts, these pre-retirement accounts, as we call them, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs. They don't realize the impact they're going to have, especially if taxes go up, when they hit that RMD age.
Yeah.
They hit age 73, and all of a sudden they've got a couple $1 million in taxable accounts. Whew, that is going to be a big tax bill, buddy.
That's right. Yeah.
Big tax bill.
Ideally, you're doing these Roth conversions before you get to RMD age, and even before you hit age 65, so that we can avoid the IRMA charges that you're going to get on Medicare by going over certain brackets. So the sooner we can start doing these Roth conversions, the better, especially knowing that we're in one of the lowest tax brackets we've ever been in. We know that's going to continue through the Trump administration. It's permanent, right? Until it's not.
Yeah.
And that just means that, hey, the next administration could come in, pass another bill, raise taxes. We don't know what happens, down the road, but we do know what's happening right now. And if we're at one of the lowest tax brackets, let's take advantage of it.
Yeah, and if you're worried about taxes going up in the future, like I think you should be, plantodaytaxbill.com. Plantodaytaxbill.com. Go in, plug in your numbers, see how it's going to impact you and your family if taxes do go up in the future. I really want to stick on this Roth conversion conversation for a few minutes, Tim, because I think it's vital for us to spread the word to as many people as we can here in the great Tennessee Valley. But I think a lot of people get confused, and we talked about this on the show before, about putting money into a Roth and doing a Roth conversion. We just had a guy tell us in Knoxville, Tennessee, guys, I can't do a Roth conversion. I make too much money. I can't do a Roth conversion. It's not going to help at $7,500 a year. There's a big difference in funding a Roth IRA and converting to a Roth IRA.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I do see a lot of confusion based around this. If you're funding a new Roth IRA, you're taking money from that checking account, from a paycheck, and you're putting it into a new Roth IRA or contributing to one that you've already had. That's a Roth contribution. Those do have limitations of how much you can put into it per year. And if you make a certain amount of income or more, you're not even allowed to make that contribution.
Right.
So there are some big limitations around that. However, Roth conversions currently have no income limitations and no conversion limitations. So in other words, a conversion would mean, hey, this is money you've already put into an IRA or a 401k of some sort, and you're able to take that money, pay the taxes on it now, and put it into a Roth IRA any amount you want to at any time. You just have to be willing to pay that tax bill when that time happens.
And you work hard. I know you and I were working with a client the other day. One of the things you and Bobby and Brogan work so hard on is we try our best to keep them in the same tax bracket.
Yeah.
It might be worth jumping up 2 points on the tax side, but we try to keep them in the same tax bracket.
Yeah, if I can help it, I certainly will. I have a great tool that allows me to put in all of your information and then timelines out what retirement may look like for you. And then it gives me a heat map to say this is the best tax strategy for you throughout retirement, whether that's pulling it in a certain fashion to fund your lifestyle or doing Roth conversions to fill any type of tax bracket. And a lot of times what I've seen here recently is we could look at keeping you in the same tax bracket, but for just a little bit more of an average tax rate throughout retirement, we could bump you up 1, 2, maybe even 3 tax brackets and get those Roth conversions done in the next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
Be done with it and live a tax-free life.
Can you imagine? And how big is that for legacy purposes? For myself and Rhonda, if I pass away today, Rhonda's going to inherit my IRA, my pre-taxable money. But upon her passing, or if we pass at the same time, then that IRA is going to transfer to our children, Nick and Grayson. They'll have 10 years to pull all of that money out and pay Uncle Sam.
That's right.
10 years. So what if they're both making good money and all of a sudden they got to take this big chunk of money out? They just went straight up in taxes. So it's having Roth money, having tax-free money for legacy purposes. I just think it's big.
Yeah, not only will they inherit it tax-free, but they won't have to pull it out every single year for the next 10 years as a traditional IRA would force you to do. They could wait till that 10th year, pull it all out, and still be 100% tax-free.
100% tax-free.
Allowing it to grow tax-free for an additional 10 years even after you've passed.
That's huge.
I'll say this. Roth conversions are amazing. I think they've worked for a lot of people, but I have had a handful of individuals recently where it just didn't make sense.
That was my next question to you. Is it right for everyone?
Yeah, not exactly. And the answer could be yes, but maybe not right now.
Okay.
I've got a few individuals who are single right now and planning to get married at some point in the future. That changes your tax bracket and could drastically change the picture of how and when we do Roth conversions.
Sure.
And then I've also seen some individuals that are still working right now and they're high income earners, but they're planning on retiring in a couple years. I'm telling them to wait, right?
Yeah.
Don't do it now.
Right.
Let's wait till that tax bracket comes down.
Oop.
Let's fund, retirement with some other funds and then use the taxable money to do those Roth conversions.
I think one of the biggest advantages folks can take out there, we have people coming to this office, in our Knoxville office all the time, and they have old 401ks. Sometimes people have 3, 4, 5 of them.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. First of all, take control of that 401k. Move it to an IRA. It's easy to do. But that is an amazing opportunity if you have old 401ks out there to do a Roth conversion on those old 401ks.
Yeah, and you can do that while you're working.
Right.
There's no penalties for doing things like this. So you will most likely have to convert those IRAs to a self-directed IRA in order to do so. A lot of those 401k plans, even if they offer a Roth contribution option, don't allow for Roth conversions. And this is one of the reasons we tell you to take control of that 401k. Take control of it so that you can do the planning that you want to do without the limitations of what your old employer said you could or couldn't do.
That's right. So, folks, here's the bottom line. The big, beautiful bill was just put in place, and we know for sure we've got a 4-year window counting this year to get you into a better tax situation by doing Roth conversions. You have to explore the option with paying taxes on the seeds versus the harvest. I think that's what you want to do, but you got to plan for it because paying the taxes is no fun. None of us like to pay taxes. But when Tim puts you through this software he was talking about, which, by the way, he charges nothing to do this for you, puts you through this software and you can see the impact of doing Roth conversions now and how that's going to affect you in the future, I think it might open your eyes up a little bit. Come in and see Tim, Bobby, Brogan. Let them put you through this process. Let them put you through this software so you can check it out for yourself. Really see how future taxes could impact you. Something you can do from the comfort of your home, though, is go to GIARothQuiz.com. GIARothQuiz.com. It's real simple. Kind of give you some great ideas about, hey, do I convert? How can I convert? When do I convert? Then come in and have a conversation with Tim, Bobby, and Brogan. Again, GIARiskquiz.com. Go check it out today. So when we come back, we're going to talk about a little market risk, and we're really going to get into some income planning on our next segment. We'll be right back.
You might not be able to retire if you haven't thought about future inflation and future taxes. When you're going through your retirement plan, are you thinking about inflation? Does your current plan have inflation built into it? The national average is about 3%. Of course, it's been really, really high the last few years, but it has come back down. But you've got to build inflation into your retirement plan because we don't want to run out of money. Another thing I stress to my clients all the time is we got to think about future taxes. Our government has one source of income, and that is taxes. And I promise you, with $34 trillion in debt, $2 more trillion being added this year in 2024, the interest only on our national debt is $1 trillion. Folks, taxes are going to go up. You've got a window of opportunity in 2024 and 2025 while taxes are still on sale. Let's start looking at maybe taking some of your taxable money to tax-free money. This is all part of the Wealth Guard planning process. We'll do this for you when we're creating an income plan. You got to think about inflation and you got to think about taxes. Give us a call today and come in and see myself and my team, and let's put this plan together for you.
Tennessee Valley, welcome back to Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. I'm Gary Thurman, your host. The name of our company is Guardian Investment Advisors, and the name of our radio show / YouTube show / Facebook, whatever it goes, everywhere, is Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. I want to throw a few things out at you guys today. We've talked about a couple of different quizzes. The first one, it's a great quiz to check your current tax situation to future taxes. PlanTodayTaxBill.com. PlanTodayTaxBill.com. Tim and I just talked about doing Roth conversions. Are they right for you? GIARothquiz.com, GIARothquiz.com. And if you missed any of the show that we've talked about so far today or that we've discussed today, you can go to our website, GIAPlanToday.com, GIAPlanToday.com. Tim, you brought up some stats that you didn't get out, and you wanted to really throw those out here to our listeners today. So what stats do you have?
Yeah, so we just got done talking about Roth IRAs and how it's important to consider that, at least as a part of your retirement planning process. Pay those taxes now, put yourself in a tax-free position for later. You know, only 25% of individuals actually have a Roth IRA right now.
Only 25%, and it's the hottest topic we can discuss right now.
Yeah, I would certainly encourage you to at least consider doing a Roth conversion. That PlanTodayTaxBill.com will kind of give you a rough idea of should you look at this, what kind of tax savings could it offer you. Go take that real quick. It will open your eyes and at least say, I should have a deeper conversation about this or not, right? And we began the show talking about when should we start saving for retirement, right? Obviously right now. Do it sooner rather than later. Do it intentionally. Make sure you get that yellow bucket savings going before you do that. But I found this interesting. Baby boomers, that generation, didn't start planning for retirement or start saving for retirement until about age 35 on average.
Okay, that's actually pretty good.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
What we're noticing is a trend, though, and it might be because of the consistent education that we're seeing widely available. As Gen X, then, they average starting saving for retirement around age 30.
That's even better.
Millennials and Gen Z have started, on average, saving for retirement around age 20 to 25.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
We're seeing this trend of the future generations are starting to save earlier, which is great, but do it with intent. Make sure you have that emergency account in place so you're not forced to reach in and pull that money out and pay taxes and penalties on it, right?
Isn't it amazing how easy and simple our bucket system works? And it just everybody's like, oh, okay, I get it.
Stop making things overcomplicated.
That's it. Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. So we've been talking about a lot of things today with taxes. We talked about some health care, talked about some Roth conversions, but I really want to get into market risk, Tim, for a few minutes, because I think one of the most common questions we still get every day is, am I taking too much risk in my investments? Let's dig into that, Tim, and tell me the first step in figuring out if someone is taking too much risk or not.
Yeah, this is a deep topic, right? We could talk for hours on this. Charting, analysis, what does our economic future look like? But let's keep it high level for now, right? When we're looking at portfolio analysis for you, we are diving into each and every holding that you have and the weighting that it has in your individual accounts. And then we look at it as a whole picture and say, okay, this is the risk that you sit in front of today compared to past recessions or pullbacks in our market.
Right.
It's important for you to understand what that effect is now versus your working career. And a lot of times I have folks come in that say, hey, we're getting ready to retire in 2-3 years, or hey, I want to retire tomorrow. You know, what do I need to do? One of the first things that I ask from them is a breakdown of their full statements on all of their investment accounts. And I do this so that I can punch in each and every holding that they have, understand the risk that's associated with it, the type of returns that they would have or have been seeing over the last 10 to 20 years, the internal fees that are involved, and what effect that may have on the retirement that you're looking at. because there's a big difference in the risk that you have while you're adding money to the account
Right.
versus taking money out of the
Distribution
account, right?
means everything, right?
Absolutely.
And that kind of brings me up to the sequence of return risk. I mean, so many people just depend on how many people have come in and met with you guys and went, I've got $2 million in my 401k. Why do I need you guys? I've got my plan put in place. Having a 401k is a vehicle.
That's right.
It's not a plan. So if you start pulling money out of that and the markets go down, now we're running into a sequence of return risk. Tell me about that and how that impacts people.
Yeah, so what Gary's referring to is, you could take the same returns over the same time frame and just reverse it on paper. So in other words, did the market crash happen 10 years into retirement or 1 year into retirement? And does that have an effect on your portfolio, whether you're adding or pulling money away from it? The answer is 100% yes. That market crash happening the first year of retirement, when you're pulling assets out of that account, has a tremendously different effect than adding money to that account. You could see a identical situation, identical returns, just flip-flopped. So that crash happens in the first year versus the 10th year. Same amount of money, same withdrawal strategies, and one of those scenarios will run out of money in 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
The other one will live and flourish throughout retirement, being that, hey, if that market crash happens in that first year, that can be absolutely crippling if you're not planning for it.
So just think about somebody that retired in end of 2008. They still had all of their money in their pre-retirement accounts. That would have hurt them really bad. And speaking of that, again, I think it's so simple how we manage risk for clients, how you and Bobby and Brogan really take advantage of this bucket system, because the number one fear in America is running out of money. The number two fear in America is getting sick. But if we establish that green bucket of money, and we know that we have an income that we can never outlive, both for you and your spouse, now can you guys be a little more risky in the red bucket of money?
Yeah, and the goal with the bucket system, right, is to minimize risk in an intentional fashion, right? So instead of taking that age 100, subtracting your age, and saying this is what you should have left in equities, let's do it for you, personalized and tailored to what your situation is. So in other words, you may have, $4,000 in Social Security coming in between you and your spouse. If you have that $4,000 a month, maybe you need about $8,000 in income.
So we got a gap.
Yeah, we've got a gap of about $4,000 there. So what can we do to fill that gap? That's where we use that green bucket.
Mm-hmm.
What portion of your assets do we need to push into that green bucket to guarantee an income of an additional $4,000 so that you can have an $8,000 guaranteed income through retirement? And by the way, this needs to be net of taxes and net of inflation.
Yeah. So I'm headed up to Knoxville to work with Brogan today with a client, and Tim, their portfolio is $2.5 million. All right, nice portfolio. They've done well. So to fill that gap that you're talking about, we need about $600,000.
Awesome.
So they're still going to have a ton of money working for them in that red bucket that they can use. It's liquid. They can use it for whatever they want to, growth, keep up with taxes, inflation. But we just needed a portion to put into the green bucket just to make sure they never run out of money. It's so simple, it's silly. It's like it just makes sense when people see it.
Again, stop overcomplicating.
Stop
It doesn't
overcomplicating.
need to be that overcomplicated.
No.
That now affords them the ability that during a recession, during a pullback in our market, they get to wake up on Wednesday knowing that the income that they need to go out to Texas Roadhouse and have dinner is there, right? They go every Wednesday with their friends. They can still go and not feel guilty about it, right?
Yeah.
The 1.9 that's left in the market, that'll affords them the ability to be a little bit more aggressive, because if the market does go down a little bit, the income's still guaranteed. We're not having to draw from a depleting asset.
Another thing we're talking to them about is taking advantage of that and doing some Roth conversions. So lots of things and bells. So Tim, we got about a minute and a half. I really want to dig into this. When is it time for someone, for their peace of mind, when is it time for someone to maybe have a little less risk in their portfolio?
This varies a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but
it does
my
per person.
As a rule of thumb, if you will, Probably 5 to 10 years before you retire
Right.
is when we need to start talking about that conversation, saying what kind of risk are we associated with now, and what happens if a recession happens between now and that retirement date. Then we can take some of that risk off the table. Maybe we start that guaranteed income bucket for you. It doesn't start paying out yet, but we put it aside
rolling up.
so that we know
Yeah.
it's there for you.
So someone's 60 years old, they've got a 401k with $1 million in it. Because they're over 59 and a half, it might be a good idea to take some of that 401k, do an internal transfer over to an IRA, but put it in the green bucket. But a portion of it, not all of it.
That's right. Maybe all of it, right? It depends
Yeah,
on
but you're
what
going
we're
to still
trying to
keep doing
do.
your 401k as
Oh,
well.
absolutely. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't want to stop the 401k if you're going to continue to work. But what this does is most 401k plans have a rule inside of it saying that if you're age 59 and a half or older, you're allowed to do what's called an in-service withdrawal. You can take money from that 401k, roll it out into an individual IRA, no tax consequence to
Right.
this. And then you can start positioning that money into safer accounts. They allow this to happen because they recognize that inside of 401k plans, there's not a whole lot of conservative options
No.
that can still work for you.
That's
at the
right.
End of the day.
Yeah, there comes a point in your life where you go from the accumulation phase to the distribution phase. And that's kind of what Tim was talking about. When you get in that distribution phase, maybe you don't need so much risk out there in your portfolio. That's why I invite you to come in, sit down with Tim, Bobby, Brogan, have a conversation, go through this software that Tim was talking about. Let him run the analytics on your current portfolio to tell you about all the fees, the risk you have. Maybe you're overfunded in mutual funds. They'll work with you on all that stuff. They get great software to do that. But are you concerned about risk? And do you have too much risk in your portfolio? Go to GIARiskQuiz.com. GIARiskQuiz.com. Take that quiz, then give us a call. Come in and see the guys, and they'll take care of you. When we come back, we're going to really ask the question, are you truly ready to retire? The steps you need to be taking. We'll be right back. Too many people enter retirement without a plan or a tax strategy, and it costs them. Every dollar you save from taxes is a dollar that can be put to work to help secure your retirement. At Guardian Investment Advisors, we have the experience and the expertise to create a customized financial strategy that includes smart tax planning. It's not about quick fixes or magic formulas. It's about building a comprehensive, tax-efficient plan. We're offering a no-cost portfolio and tax strategy review to get you started. Schedule an appointment with us today. You'll be glad you did. Tennessee Valley, welcome back to Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. My name is Gary Thurman, your host. The name of our company is Guardian Investment Advisors, and I'm here with my good friend and fiduciary advisor, Tim McDermott, today. And man, we have had a great show. We've talked about a lot of things for pre-retirees and post-retirees. If you didn't get to catch all the show, as of next week, this show will be out, but you can go check out our latest 10 shows on our website, GIAPlantoday.com, GIAPlantoday.com. We've also thrown out a lot of quizzes at you guys today. First one's PlanTodayTaxBill.com, PlanTodayTaxBill.com. Great tool for you to use. GIARothQuiz.com, GIARothQuiz. Go check that one out. And the last one we threw out there for you guys is GIARiskQuiz.com, GIARiskQuiz.com. If you get confused on other quizzes that were thrown out there, just call our office, 423-710-9199. Bridget or Abby will lead you in the right direction. Tim, I think that this is a magical question that we get often is, gosh, guys, am I actually ready to retire? Can I retire? Do I have enough money? You know, a lot of people don't think they have enough money when they actually do, but I guess we start with, what does actually ready to retire actually mean? Because it's not just about having money. There's a lot of other things that go with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. We just talked about how that 401k plan you've been putting money into for your retirement or for your working career is a vehicle, right? It's a good vehicle while you're working. It's you get free money matches usually from your employer. It grows usually well for you, but it's not a retirement plan. We want to be cautious about taking our funds and leaving them all at risk when we retire. We just talked about sequence of returns risk, and if that crash happens the year after, 2 years after you retire, that can really cripple a portfolio very quickly. Bobby and I, even Brogan, use a tool called our Income Lab.
Mm-hmm.
It allows us to put in your entire scenario, from your incomes to your assets, expenses and liabilities, put it in one nice picture, and then timeline it out through retirement and say, this is the plan. If you do nothing, this is what you're looking at. If we make some adjustments and do this plan, this is how we kind of secure retirement for you and make sure that you live a stress-free, happy retirement. Right?
Yeah, live every day like a Saturday, right?
That's right.
What if someone? Well, let's say that this is something I've heard a lot here lately. Is Gary? Maybe they're getting to retire a little bit early, or maybe they're retiring right at 65. It doesn't matter. But from, let's say, 65 to 75, that's your go-go years. I mean, that's when you want to go have fun. You want to travel. You want to do different things. Can you and Bobby and Brogan set up an income strategy where maybe they're getting more money the first 10 years, and then when they hit the slow-go years, we can do a little less money? Is that something you guys can do?
Absolutely, we can. Here's what I would caution. In theory, it sounds right, and we hear this all the time from other advisors who are saying, "Yeah, spend more in the first 10 years of retirement."
Right.
I would be cautious about saying we'll spend less after that time period over. Inflation becomes a problem, right?
Taxes.
So things get more expensive.
Yeah.
Taxes could go up, and thirdly, those slow go years, you're usually slowing down because maybe health issues are starting to set in.
Right. Yeah.
And we in our first segment, we talked about how expensive healthcare can
absolutely.
be. And so while, you may not be spending money on airfare and hotels, or maybe the RV is sold, some of the other expenses that come along with things do take a play in there. And so I would be cautious about saying, okay, we're going to pull back later on.
Right, but you can structure income plans to meet the client's goals and wishes.
And in fact, we intentionally put in travel
right,
expenses.
Exactly.
For whatever your goals and needs and wants are.
And I like the fact that, as long as somebody still has that red bucket of money, that if they want to take that trip to Europe, they can pull it out of there. Absolutely.
That's supposed to be money that grows for inflation, that grows for fun, that grows for those added expenses.
Right.
It's not there just to sit and grow and do nothing for you. It's there to spend it.
Absolutely. I think one of the other things that pre-retirees and I guess post-retirees can consider this as well is when to turn on Social Security. I think Social Security is a vital part of your income planning in retirement. And I think so many people are simply just doing it wrong. I don't remember the stat. I was out with my buddy Chance Robinson doing TV not too long ago, and he gave me a stat that blew me away about how many people are actually turning it on at the wrong time. How do you feel, Tim, personally, how important it is for someone to work with a fiduciary advisor like yourself and optimize their Social Security planning?
So we see a lot where folks may be using 2 or 3 different advisors, where you've got your 401k plan, you're self-managing a portion of it, you got the guy on the side who's doing things, and nobody truly understands the full picture besides yourself, maybe. But then do you understand what's going on and changing economically and how to maximize the different parts of that retirement plan? This is where a fiduciary advisor is sitting with you and saying, hey, we need to understand the full picture. Even if we're not working with the full picture, I have to understand that full picture to truly give you the best advice at the end of the day. You have to understand how the assets are working with Social Security and everything else.
Right.
And what I hear most of the time is a surface level conversation on Social Security. Should I start it now? Should I wait? And I hear most of the time, I should wait. I get an 8% roll up every single year. I delay. That may be true for you, but I will say it's more uncommon than common to wait rather than you should turn it on sooner rather than later, assuming you're not going to be penalized for it.
That's right. But now if someone, I think health is a big deal here. If someone is unhealthy and they are the breadwinner of the family, they probably need to wait as long as they can, because once that person passes away, that spouse loses that Social Security benefit.
They're going to lose the lower of the two Social Security.
Right.
That's correct. And so, I've seen in some cases, it may make sense for you to delay your Social Security so that when you do pass, your wife receives a higher Social Security amount. But we do want to look at the effect on the asset that it has at the end of the day. There's a thing called time value of money, right? I'll skip that long conversation.
Yeah, there's a long conversation.
We can talk about it in more detail, but the long story short is that you're spending down your asset instead of spending Uncle Sam's asset.
So, Tim, I want to jump back into income planning just for a few minutes because, again, it's the number one fear in America. So when you and Bobby and Brogan sit down with folks and they're worried about running out of money, what type of strategies do we have in place here at Guardian Investment Advisors where we can look at them in the face and say, we're guaranteeing you this income for the rest of your life and you'll never run out of money? What kind of things are we doing there?
Guarantees are a nice thing to have.
Guarantees is a big word. Big word.
Absolutely. And that's where our green bucket strategy comes into place. We're using things like fixed index annuities in today's world. It used to be that bonds were paying 14, 15% back in the 70s, 80s. And ever since then, they've declined the yield payout. We're sitting about, I think the Feds are targeting about a 4.25% interest rate, which affects bonds and mortgage rates and everything else. While those yields are low, we're offering higher percentage payouts that are guaranteed, and we don't have inflation risk. We don't have default risk. We don't have these other risks that are involved with the fixed index annuity companies. We're providing protection and guarantees no matter how long you live for you and a spouse's life, so that you can wake up on Wednesday and know that the income's there, even during a recession. Doesn't matter what happens in the White House, in Congress, economically, it's still guaranteed to be there.
But if we establish that income, which is the number one fear in America, now we get more opportunity to be more creative in that red bucket.
That's right. Yeah, if we can make sure that you've got the income that you need to live your lifestyle, that affords us the ability to be a little more aggressive on the red bucket, to be a little more aggressive in the market, to go out there and seek those returns a little bit heavier.
I think retirement, a lot of it, income planning, healthcare planning, Medicare planning, long-term care planning, all these different plannings that tax planning. But I think retirement is also a mental game for folks, and something that I think we're really good at is working with clients to get their mind shifted, if you will, from saving to actually spending and having fun. Some people have the hardest time doing that. They have a hard time letting go, and because they're so nervous and they're so scared.
I think that's a great point to bring up. I ran into a case like this the other day. The wife was okay spending because she saw the plan. Husband did too, but he's still very reserved on saying, okay, well, I do want to go to Europe, but I don't want to pull that much money out.
Right.
I gave them what I call a guilt-free income. Right?
Nice.
And I love this. You may not necessarily need an extended guaranteed income for life, but in their scenario, we used a fixed index annuity to guarantee them an additional $1,000 a month that they could go out and spend, knowing that it's going to come no matter what happens.
Right.
It's just going to show up in their mailbox. That allowed him the mentality to say, okay, I can go spend it, right? It's planned to come to me. I don't have to worry about it not coming. Let's go spend it, right?
Yeah,
so
I love that.
Guilt-free income's nice.
Guilt-free income. Wow, Tim, what a great show. We've talked about a lot of things today. I want to end on risk. We were talking about, do you have too much risk in your portfolio? Are you ready to retire? Are you truly ready to retire? One of the neat things we've done here at Guardian Investment Advisors is created a quiz that lets you go in and answer a series of questions. I think there's 35 questions, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes to fill this thing out. And it's going to give you some stats that I think will open your eyes up as to if you're truly ready to retire. GIAquiz.com. GIAquiz.com. Folks, go take that quiz, then give us a call, 423-710-9199. We would love to have an opportunity to sit down with you. Take advantage of this awesome software Tim has where we can analyze your whole portfolio, give you all the insides and outs of your portfolio. Then he can run you through that income lab. I think once you see that income lab, you're going to be like, I want to work with these guys because they're keeping things simple. Again, red, yellow, and green buckets. We keep it that simple. GIAquiz.com. GIAquiz.com. Go check it out, and we will see you guys on Plan the Day on tomorrow next week. Take care.